Never let a good crisis go to waste. And that's exactly what we're looking at here. Now, Sam Bankman-Fried, as I said kind of in the intro, is that he had fraudulently created all this money. So one, he created something out of thin air, this FTT token. He manipulated the market. Fraud again. Manipulated the market to make it think it had value when it didn't. And then he had this fake thing that he created out of thin air that he tricked everybody into thinking had value, manipulated into thinking had value. And then he went and borrowed against it. And then he stole customer funds and did all these things. And then he took all this money and went and started to try to influence all these regulators. As I said earlier, the only money that he gave to Republicans was to Republican lawmakers who were making the laws on the things he wanted them to make laws on. He was trying to influence them. So what was he doing with this? Well, he was trying to get them to pass laws. And some of the laws that he was trying to get them to pass, now it looks like they may pass, but now it looks like lawmakers are stuck in this like, well, shoot, do we go ahead with these laws that he wanted us, that he helped us draw up and that he wanted, but then it looks like we're using laws of a known scammer, or do we abandon them and push them through and scrap them and start all over? It's kind of an interesting predicament they find themselves in. But yet here we are. It looks like a couple of these might find its way in. One of them here is called the Crypto Consumer Protection Bill. Sam Bankman-Fried backed it before the whole collapse. And they want to know, lawmakers are trying to consider if this would help them prevent another implosion of exchanges. What I've found time and time again, what would actually help prevent these things isn't new laws. It's enforcing the laws that were already there. So it turns out he broke a whole bunch of laws. Turns out he's facing 8 counts. It turns out the 8 counts that he's facing, even if he only gets found guilty on half of them, would still probably result in maybe 2 life sentences. I mean, Bernie Madoff got 150 years. He's probably facing at least that. So turns out what he did was already illegal. Turns out what he did was so illegal, he's probably going to face multiple life sentences. So turns out we don't need new laws to protect consumers because what he did was already illegal. Think about that for a second. It's insane. You know, when you hear about these gun situations where, you know, the shooting happened in Texas and they want to pass all these new gun laws. Well, turns out that he already got through a whole bunch of gun laws and he already went through all these checks. So it turns out if we would have just enforced the laws that were already there, it would have probably, or could have maybe helped prevent that. New laws don't need to be passed. And same that we have here. What's the point of passing new laws when the old laws were already there and they didn't work? I mean, it's just insane. Some crypto advocates say it doesn't go far enough to protect certain kinds of exchanges, but we'll see. This bill, the Digital Commodities Consumer Protection Act, was introduced in August, but it hasn't been used yet. But it gives the Commodities Future Trading Commission, the CFTC, more authority to regulate digital commodities like FTX. The bill arrived before FTX's collapse, ignited fresh debate over how to protect consumers in a relatively young and untamed crypto industry. It's among a handful of solutions lawmakers will consider as they begin to probe the implosion of FTX with high-stakes hearings this week. Now, let me just say something real quick. FTX was able to, well, one, they hired a bunch of people from the CFTC. So there's two main regulatory bodies in the United States, the SEC and the CFTC. They hired a bunch of people from the CFTC, and they gave a bunch of money to the other people at the CFTC, buy them off. Now, as we've come to find out from the new CEO, John Ray, who's gone there to clean things up, he says, and by the way, he worked on the Enron case, and he said this is the worst he's ever seen. He said it's never been worse. There's no way anybody could have ever done any due diligence on this at all. Like, they had one bank account. They ran a $30 billion company and they used QuickBooks. They approved invoices using Slack with emojis. So, like, if the invoice was good to be paid, they'd send like a smiley face emoji in Slack. Like, no joke. He said that's the worst case it's ever been. They didn't even have a bank account. FTX money, when you would wire money to FTX, it actually went to Alameda because FTX didn't even have a bank account. Okay? Like, they didn't even have a bank account. They had nothing. And yet somehow FTX was able to get the only crypto derivative license from the CFTC. They bought it. It's called Ledger. How were they able to get the only one? No other exchange, no bank, no one could get it, but FTX got it from the CFTC. When they didn't even have a bank account? When they didn't have any compliance? Was there any due diligence, like, at all? And I'm just telling you that because now supposedly the CFTC wants to be the one to regulate this. They were the ones that gave out the derivatives license. How good of a job did they do before? I mean, you're really trying to ask the fox to guard the hen house here. Like, literally. They literally are the ones that just closed their eyes and issued the license and gave it to FTX with no due diligence, and now they want to argue that they should be the ones that regulate this? I mean, it's insanity. These agencies should be shut down in disgrace, in my opinion. We don't need new laws. We already have laws. I mean, so instead of charging them with 8 counts, you charge them with 10 counts if you had more laws. Anyway, so let's talk about this DCCPA bill that, again, Sam Bankman-Fried was helping to push. So it says that the bill would require entities to seek that want to become digital commodity platforms to register with the CFTC as commodities brokers. Okay, good. So now you have to register with us. Okay, that's great. The bill would also establish core principles that platforms must abide by, including providing records of transactions. Okay, so they should keep records. Now we know FTX didn't have good records, so maybe that would be something. The commission would then be the rulemaking authority on these types of agencies. Okay, it says the bill wouldn't have solved any of these problems, though. It said if FTX had been registered in the United States, the company maybe, because the FTX company was actually headquartered in the Bahamas. But it says, quote, many of the actions that have been allegedly perpetrated actually have been crimes in this country for over a century, end quote. Yeah, that's exactly my point. All this stuff was already illegal. We don't need new laws for this. The bigger motive is good old Elizabeth Warren sitting in the background. Of course, you know she's going to come out and try and do whatever she can. And so Senator Elizabeth Warren, never letting a crisis go to waste, she wants to come out and, of course, save the world. And what she wants to do is she wants to pass a new bill in what's called a crypto money laundering bill. Now, the crypto money laundering bill has nothing to do with what just happened here, but she's going to use the momentum of this attack, potentially a false flag attack. And I hate to say that. Everybody knew there would be this battle, and of course there will be. And here it comes, good old Elizabeth Warren, Democrat from Massachusetts. They've introduced a bill to crack down on money laundering because money laundering is bad, and financing of terrorists because, yes, financing of terrorists is bad, using cryptocurrencies. Now, why does it have to be using cryptocurrencies? Again, we already have laws against financing terrorists. Do we need to make one for cryptocurrencies now? And they're calling it the Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act, which sounds great, like the Save the Puppies Act. And it would bring know your customer rules to crypto participants such as wallet providers and miners, and prohibit financial institutions from transacting with digital asset mixers, which are tools designed to obfuscate the origin of funds. And so basically what they're saying is that what they want in this new Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act is every single person in the cryptocurrency ecosystem, whether you're a miner, so you run a high-powered computer that just helps process transactions, or you wrote a piece of code that's now being used to route something, or you have a server somewhere on Amazon Web Services that routes traffic, or wherever it is going to have to capture or make sure that every transaction has a KYC or Know Your Customer attached, including the biggest revolution of Bitcoin is that I can custody my own Bitcoin, which means I can hold it, I can have my own wallet. And if I want to send it to you, you can have your own wallet, and there's nobody in the middle that can stop it, block it, or prevent it. It's great. It's revolutionary. It's amazing. Not for the government. The government doesn't want that, and so they want to have this Know Your Customer piece put into every single piece of that. So every single participant, the wallet provider, the miners, they would want them to have to capture that information, which is impossible. It's not possible. There's no way to build that in, which is exactly their point. If they can enforce some sort of a rule that's not possible, then that means you can't even engage in any of that operation because there's no way to engage in that operation and comply with the rule at the same time. You see how that works? So basically what they're saying is this whole segment of the market, this whole new technology, you just can't even do it.